Welcome back, everybody, to week number 8 of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. My name is Ketchup, and I'm joined by the ever-so-talented Flea on the desk. And we have one more series left to go. It's Psygib versus Rapha. Quite exciting, because Psygib, he's always kind of like, as time has progressed, he's starting to kind of re-establish himself as one of the top players of Americas. You know, he's kind of like opposite to Nosfa, who is quite a slow starter in Stage 1. As time is progressing, he's starting to level up further, and he's kind of almost like re-established himself to the level of excellence he displayed at QuakeCon, which was very impressive.
I mean, I believe he beat the Hang, right, at QuakeCon?
He did.
Yeah, a quite impressive feat that very few Quake players will have ever accomplished throughout their time of playing the game, but clearly Psygib not a man to be trifled with. I said it earlier when we were talking about Nosa, two players with very similar playstyles in my opinion, extremely confident in just his supreme combat abilities, absolutely not afraid to just stick it to the other player and really just get in up close and personal for those close quarter fights.
I mean, Psygib and Nosfa kind of became like unofficial rivals to me throughout Stage 1, especially at the finals and everything else. It was just a nice display. Whenever they played online, it was a good show. They played at LAN. It was, I mean, one of the closer matches we had, if memory serves correctly. But fundamentally, he's going up against Rapha, and that is a different story.
I mean, Rapha, the man needs no introduction whatsoever. The man, the myth, the legend, our professor of Quake. Very few people are as well rewarded as the man when it comes to playing Quake. No one has won more QuakeCon titles. He is supremely capable in every aspect of the game, one of the smartest, most strategic players around, and he shows it time and time again.
And fundamentally, it's just through one of the biggest brains, if not the biggest brain in the entire community. Rapha is said to be the absolute smartest player that the world has ever seen when it comes to competitive Quake. And in Quake Champions, he just continues to embody that so much of what he does is this next level of calculation.
Yeah.
That, you know, how can you even dispute it with the success that he's had in the world of competitive Quake?
It's a meme, but also not quite, that Rapha is always 5 steps ahead of everyone else. He's constantly thinking. He takes a lot of time to really download his opponents and understand how they're going to approach every single given situation, and he always keeps himself an exit. He's a very disciplined player, and that's one of the things I admire the most about Rapha, is that he just doesn't commit to fights that he doesn't run the numbers for first and says, I've got a sufficiently high chance of either winning, doing the damage I want, or getting away safely. So, very, very talented player.
There's also the combination of smarts and confidence, where there are moments where there can be quite aggressive pushes that not everyone, I think, really has the stones to go for, and Rapha will.
Yeah.
Because he's just confident in his ability to do it. His aim kind of progressively gets better and better as well over the course of Quake Champions, for sure. That he's just another one of those players that's just this next level of consistency. It's just the decision-making behind what Rapha does is always like the most impressive thing. His opponent, though, Psygib, is, like we kind of said earlier, he's just a player that was always held up with this level of just American excellence, and he demonstrated that at QuakeCon. Had a slow start in Stage 1, but kind of very quickly changed that and flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
And you can see a lot of real... You said you can't compare Nosfa and Psygib because they're both quite aggressive players. The confidence is put forth in their gameplay. Psygib is definitely one of those players that's just... I don't really think he fears anybody.
No.
And that makes a big difference.
I feel like if you were to compare a player to a champion, Psygib is like Scalebearer or Keel. One of those two, you know, just an extremely confident, overpowering force to be reckoned with in just about every situation that you come up against him. So, definitely a threat to Rapha, and I think in the eyes of many, one of the few players in the Americas that people have been thinking about, is this going to be the man to finally stop Rapha's reign of terror in Stage 2? Because so far Rapha hasn't lost a single match yet, and he's the only player to have done so in Stage 2.
It's a common talking point, isn't it? Can someone finally stick it to the Professor? So we're finding out very soon if Psygib is going to be one of those players that can do it. It's funny you should mention Keel, because that's just in time for the picks and bans, which are quite interesting, to say the least. We're starting off with a Keel pick from Rapha on the Corrupted Keep, which I'm already excited for. The Molten falls, Scalebearer versus Strogan Pika. And then finally on Blood Covenant, Rapha actually removed the Athena. Athena is a champion that Psygib has used quite a lot, and Athena as a champion is kind of going from strength to strength these days, especially on a map like Blood Covenant, in the hands of Psygib. So that's very much so, I think, a personal ban, kind of like a respect ban I can sense coming out of that one. That Psygib has made magic things happen with Athena, and on one of her strongest maps, you don't want to deal with it.
I'm particularly curious about the situation on Molten Falls. Watching Scalebearer, we haven't seen any scales today yet. We haven't seen any kills today yet either, so we're getting 2 new champions for the price of 1. But I'm really curious to see what Psygib can bring with the Scalebearer on Molten Falls, because it is one of those maps with a lot of long open hallways, and he can really reach his full potential and his maximum speed quite easy to just gather that momentum and smash people to bits with the damage that he does with his passive. But of course he has to go up against Rapha playing as the Strog, also quite a mobile champion, who's got the Peeker to help him out, so it's going to be very interesting to see the interplay between those two.
And then we have to look at that final map, the Blood Covenant. Psygib had the Athena removed, so we had to try and match the mobility elsewhere with the Anarchy pick, and Rapha going nice and traditional with Ranger. Another champion that can really work on Blood Covenant thanks to the Orb just covering multiple pickups, especially at map start.
Yeah. It's going to be extremely interesting to see. We haven't seen Anarchy on Blood Covenant yet today. We've seen him a few times, but never on this map. Still interesting to see, because Anarchy can work really well on Blood Covenant, but you need to have the movement skills for it, because some of the jumps that you can do with him are far from easy. It's not like you're playing Clutch or Doomslayer or Nyx with a double jump or a wall jump that can just easily get you across. Now you need to have perfect movement to make some of these jumps happen, so it's going to be interesting to see whether Psygib can bring it to the table.
You'd definitely assume that he would. He's not shy of playing those high-octane champions. Only reason he's going in with Anarchy, I imagine, is because Athena was removed, and Athena is no slouch either.
Yep.
Highly tricky to maximize at tournament level. I really have to talk, it felt like she was too much of a glass cannon in Stage 1, but the more we've seen Athena come out in Stage 2, it's just, the optimization and the further practice that players are constantly getting with Athena in the pocket. She's not easy to play, and at this level of play, it's hard to make her work, but when she does, she's a different beast entirely.
Yeah. And on that note, we are going to start our final series of the day. We've got Psygib, we've got Rapha. This is map 1, Corrupted Keep, and we're starting this one off on Psygib playing the BJ, instantly opening it with some good rocket damage. He's gonna make a move on the LG. Wow. Yeah, that was a huge rocket to start off with.
Now, the dual wield was forced out almost immediately, and those grenades, they don't tickle, especially if you're out of armor. Rapha, one thing that's just been so standout whenever he's played Kiev is just his grenade placement. It really is next level.
The consistent barrage of rockets there, though. Rapha like waiting and waiting, finally thinking he's in the clear, and then he peeks out and boop, right back down. He's pushing in, lands one grenade. Psygib has to return a little bit. There's no rail on this map, we've got to keep that in mind, and Rapha just absolutely hyper-aggressive plays, knows he's got the lead, knows he's got the stack advantage, doesn't wait any longer than he has to.
Got some immediate damage off, and again, just to remind everyone that is tuning in now, it was said a fair few hours ago now, so just in case you're new to the stream, that new Frost Cannon style weapon, the nail gun skin, Rapha kind of really favors that now. When asked about it the other day, he mentioned how he feels like the Frost Cannon's animation or model, I suppose, lines up really nicely with the actual nail gun's hitbox. So it's actually a pure mechanical sense that causes him to use the Frost Cannon rather than any other skin. Not every player will do that. Sometimes it'll be cosmetic, but for Rapha, everything is pure functionality.
Yeah. It's one of the things that sets him apart from a lot of players, that constant drive to be able to perfect everything, every little aspect of his gameplay when it comes to Quake.
He's called the Professor for a reason right there. However,
absolutely, he's falling a little low though.
Yeah, loads of damage, trying to get as much as he can before he inevitably goes down, but one of the drawbacks of Kiel, an extremely large champion with a kind of larger stack, it's just he's not as mobile as some of the other picks. He's not got the movement of a Sorlag or the bull rush of a Scalebearer, the dash of a Clutch. He's got damage.
That dodge there, though, that really was awkward from Psygib. Dodging on stairs can always be tricky because your momentum can carry you down them, and that's exactly what happened. And so Rapha just landed 100% heavy nail gun at the end right there, and that just does so much damage.
Have you ever tried to run down a set of stairs before? It's not easy.
Absolutely not.
That happens to all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah, makes you a difficult target, and BJ Blazkowicz is not exempt from that rule. Rapha, 1 frag in the lead. Heavy will be the next item to spawn.
Nail gun is a very popular weapon for Rapha so far, just kind of acting as area denial, means to spam. Oh, wonderful rocket as well, making it a 3-1. Can he get in and take the Mega? Looking like he's a little bit too far away, so he's going to have to make do with the smaller pickups.
Loving the horizontal rocket jumps. I've always said this from the start of Quake Champions. Not enough people do them. Rapha's one of the few players alongside Wenger who consistently use those horizontal rocket jumps, so it's very nice to see him get that speed from it.
Rapha consistently kind of weak. He has got quite a few grenades ready to go. The danger is just that he's out of rockets too. That's unfortunate. Can he win with the LG? He can!
Whoa, that was like 100% LG coming out of Rapha. Everyone who still says that Rapha has got good strategy but doesn't have the aim to back it up, they haven't seen this man play in months and months, because he absolutely has stepped up the aim game tremendously and can now often go toe-to-toe against the very best in the business.
And if you've got the brain to back it up, those things will go hand in hand, and what makes Rapha so dangerous really at this level of competitive. And now he's looking to lay that pressure on. Has managed to get a few rockets back. The dual wheel's been popped. I was really thinking that at best he was perhaps hoping for a trade in that situation. Didn't quite work out for him. Thing is, Psygib, 25 stack, that's weak. And that's way too little for him to be comfortable. Thankfully though, this is Corrupted Keep, plenty of health bubbles around.
And that was a difficult decision for Psygib to make. Do I go for the Mega and potentially just instantly get refragged before I even get to it? Or do I just leave it be? But then instantly Rapha gets a Mega off spawn, so that's not the ideal solution either. He went for the second option, ended up not dying, clinging onto his life, but now Rapha does outstack him.
And with Rapha's aim so far,
wow.
especially with opening rockets like that, I was going to say these fights might become increasingly harder for Psygib so long as Rapha's hitting those opening shots. Before I can even finish saying that, Rapha delivers the goods right there. Just about to come onto that 5-minute warning, and Rapha looking good. Plenty of pineapples left. Loads of ammo, in fact, actually. 15 rockets. And then with the heavy to boot, this is as locked and loaded as I think Rapha could really hope for.
170 health, 200 armor. There's few champions that can get up to that level. And then think of someone doing it at like the highest level of competitive play. Here we go, the nades into the shoddy combo, and it's working out nicely. Psygib, can he get away? Skin of his teeth. But Rapha's there.
Forced through the teleporter, but there is still the potential for a point of no return here. Psygib actually does manage to escape, but for how long? Is he on borrowed time? He has collected some of the small health bubbles. He needs to get himself some armor. That's always going to be the scary side against a kill. Oh, my word. Oh, rockets are coming through, but not enough to hit the mark yet. A little bit of a flick around there for Rapha. Easy shot to the right. And it's going to be a 7-2. Looking like it's going to run away from Psygib at this rate.
Those were some really good rockets coming out of Psygib right there for a moment, but Rapha just had the angle and the positioning on the Mega. Here we go. Psygib does steal it away. Basic machine gun is all he needs. He's definitely not out of this map just yet, but it's going to be difficult. He makes a move on Mega. Should be able to take it. There we go. That's good for Psygib. Now he can start rebuilding something. Maybe put together a comeback, but Rapha loops right back around, position himself expertly. What?
That passive's only going to help you so much here, my friend.
So
25 health left. I mean, Rapha has loads of stack, right?
Psygib just completely missed the fact that Rapha dropped down and went to the right. He was expecting him to be somewhere at the left, it seemed like. That was a very bizarre mistake to make.
Potential fumbles like that will be punished real heavily when we're kind of this late into a map. 7-3 as well. Psygib can't really afford to be making those mistakes. And now with the stack Rapha staying on, I mean, a little bit of stack went down. That was definitely a rocket jump that was activated. Don't need to see the X-ray for that one. And now Rapha being real aggressive. The dual wheel taking down some of the stack, but not enough for Rapha to care. As long as he stops the bleeding with some of these smaller pickups, he's more than happy to fight again, especially with this heavy on lockdown.
And this is one of the reasons why heavy champions work so well on this map. 2 HP, that was close. But the reason they work so well is because there's no railgun. And that's one of the things that you would normally do in a situation like that. If your opponent has 200 armor and an enormous amount of stack, when there's no way for you to take a close quarter fight and just do anything really but die, you just rail them from a distance and you just slowly chip away at their stack. But Psygib has no way of doing that. He has to get close and personal, and that ends up costing him lives just like that.
Surprise Daisy out of nowhere. Rapha definitely too weak, realistically, to take that fight, and the dual-wield heavy machine gun's gonna do its dues there, but I'm just looking at how much work is left to go. Rapha, he's spawning with a decent stack, trying to get damage where he can. Psygib, he's only got 100 health and no armor. If Rapha hits just one good rocket or some pineapple damage, that's going to be all she wrote, really. Forces Psygib to disengage. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. I mean, by all accounts, this really should be a done map here, even if it is Corrupted Keep.
I mean, it is one of the fastest maps to make a comeback happen, but Rapha just shuts that down instantly. The way that the spawns work, it can be very easy, relatively easy, to chain together a few frags, and that's exactly what Psygib was counting on, but Rapha says no. He's not done beating just yet, and he's gonna keep putting out the damage, and Psygib will get a frag, but it's going to be a trade, and that's only going to benefit Rapha.
Absolutely. All about wasting time at this stage. And you look at Rapha's Keel, you rarely see sort of Keel pick during the weekly stage. I know it's a bit different for Keel when we're in these situations on the LAN setting where we go into, like, you know, the best of 5 scenarios where there's kind of less champions to pick from, so sometimes Keel comes out to play. When you have more of an option to choose from, you rarely see Keel get picked. But when you do, it's a real treat, especially in the hands of someone like Rapha. The pineapples just look so useful, especially when you can combo into them. It's not as easy to kind of land these combos as you might think, and that was just perfect rocket placement. And this is just, you know, this was a victory lap a minute ago.
Rapha is kind of demonstrating what I was just talking about, how you can chain together the frags on a map like this, but unfortunately for Psygib, it was going the opposite direction of what he wanted to see, and it's just Rapha extending his lead more and more. Look at that, 18 frags already.
Someone stop the damn match, throw the towel in.
Yeah, can he make it to 20? I think Rapha's trying. Rapha's one of the most professional players in the world, so he will just keep on going until the timer hits 0. He will not stop, no matter how far ahead he is. He will always retain his focus and keep playing as if it's a close game. Doesn't matter to him. He's not like say Razy, who will go for the gauntlets at this point. Rapha will keep playing the exact same way. He cares about the win, not so much the glory.
A very convincing win it will be for Rapha as he takes Corrupted Keep. 18 frags to 5. The Keel pick looking real useful.
Yep.
And just his positioning of the grenades, right? It just, the burst exists naturally when you combine the grenades with anything. The rocket launcher is a really popular weapon on Keep. The second you've got a rocket launcher and the grenade launcher, it just 2 peas in a pod. You love getting those combos together, but it works with so many weapons. The really popular weapons of Corrupted Keep, well-placed grenades, are kind of like they work in perfect harmony too. So it's no wonder we actually saw Rapha come out with this pick.
Yeah, and Rapha actually only did 500 more damage than his opponent, which really isn't that big of a difference, but of course he managed to do the damage when it mattered the most, and every single time that Psygib managed to hurt Rapha a fair bit, he usually ended up going down, and then Rapha just had a perfect rotation of health and armors ready to get him stacked right up and just negate all of the damage that he took.
But I feel like this is going to be just a highlight reel of Keel frags, to be honest with you, because this was very much the Rapha show. You know, Psygib was kind of doing what he could, but the stack difference really starts to add up when the momentum starts to play. The second you're a champion with a massive stack, it's much easier for you to kind of begin to snowball effect, which is what Rapha did begin doing kind of halfway through and onwards. The second you're a larger champion with a lot more stack to work with, that becomes a lot more possible. The second you've got loads of ammo ready to go, you've got the grenades, I mean, you have everything you could possibly need. And just look at how many times these fights happened where Psygib, like, the opening rocket was like 180, something insane that just means, well, okay, you've started a fight and I don't even come close to having the stack to fight back.
Yeah. And I think it's really going to be interesting to see the pace ramp up. Rapha got, I think, around 7 frags made in total in the first 5 minutes of the map, but then in the final 5, Rapha is all of a sudden going to kick things up a notch and just absolutely start tearing into his opponent.
And it's got
shotgun.
What I expected, just a variety of different weapons used, and the pineapples play a huge part. That was an unfortunate fight. That was a hilarious super shotgun, just catching him down there at the perfect time. But you think that Rapha's down, and then, you know, before you know it, he's able to refrag. A lot of these frags that Psygib obtained, he really didn't get much from it, and that's one of the dangers here. Even if you barely survive the fight and then you collect a Mega if you're BJ, you're then coming up against a freshly spawned Keel who's just spawned near maybe the LG. More than often, you know, he's got the rocket launcher or something else ready to rock. So if you've barely survived a fight and get a Mega, and then Keel respawns near a really important weapon, you're not really at that much of an advantage.
No, not at all. That's the stack difference indeed, and the risk of playing up against a heavy champion. And as I already said, the lack of a railgun, which is usually pretty easy to hit on these larger champions with the bigger hitboxes, just makes it all that more difficult to make anything happen against one of the heavies in game. And Rapha, of course, playing Keel to perfection. Psygib put up a pretty good effort, managed to get a few nice frags here and there, did a lot of damage, but just not in the ways that it mattered.
Now, you mentioned hitting rails on large targets that try and navigate. I think it's about time we go into Molten Falls, which is our second map. The Scale Bearer pick did actually come out from Psygib, so there's going to be some interesting juice there. We'll see if it's going to work out for him, I suppose. Scale Bearer, another situational champion pick. You don't see him on every single map. But from quite an early stage, Molten Falls was kind of like the map that he really excelled on. For reasons you mentioned earlier on, there's just a lot more open space for Scale Bearer to build the speed. And the more speed he builds, the more damage his Bull Rush will do, the more frags he can set up. However, it's quite a popular pick, and Rapha being able to kind of somewhat match that speed thanks to the crouch sliding properties of Strog and Pika. It's interesting to see how this one's going to go. Rapha's always going to be the favourite, but Psygib, you know, no slouch. See if that Scale Bearer has what it takes.
Yep. Rapha starting off on the heavy side of the map, delaying the item actually a fair bit. This might set him up for a good rotation coming up shortly, and he's already got all the weapons that he needs, whereas Psygib, I believe, is still hurting for the railgun, which is a very important weapon on a map as open and broad as this. Rapha moving in, little too slow. Here comes Psygib, immediately pushing out with the Bull Rush, and he's gonna continue chasing it down. Rapha, can he escape? He gets the 2 health bubbles, looks like he will be able to get out, but can he collect heavy? Not in time. Psygib getting frag 1.
I'm almost half thinking that perhaps he didn't think Psygib would fully chase him all the way there, because for a split second, Rapha stopped moving. It's very unlike him to not be prepared for that, so I don't want to make too much of a bold claim just in case, but wow, here we go. Oh no! That was a potential disaster. Oh no, he misses the rail too. 2 separate opportunities to score a frag there that Psygib didn't quite seize. That was unfortunate.
Beautiful rocket though, but Rapha will be able to get out of the room alive. Is he even going to go for heavy right away? He will. Doesn't want to take the risk, knowing that, of course, Scale Bearer, if he collides, that's going to be bad news. Rockets are needed to be better for Psygib to stand a chance in a confrontation like that. And now Rapha starting to set up the rotation.
Oh! Oh, we were so close to a
that
great
would
moment.
have been something else.
Knowing Rapha, I think he would have felt a certain way about that. That would have been a question mark.
Oh, that's an excellent rail from Psygib right there. Rapha probably not counting on him being visible still when using the peeker, but Psygib had different thoughts. There we go. We can hear the bull chasing him down.
Played us the sound of his people. But it's actually not going to lead to anything. Rapha, unfortunately, was able to just get straight out of there. But it was a good idea there from Psygib. Definitely could have worked. But this is one of the elements of the matchup, you know, the Strog and Pika. That Bull Rush, I doubt it's going to have as much use thanks to just the sheer crazy mobility that Strog has access to. So, you know, the ball's going to be in Psygib's court. He's not be able to just be too free with it. And that LG is going to delete, absolutely annihilate Psygib in that situation. Some of these fights have been a little bit unfortunate for him. You know, even down to that first Bull Rush that didn't quite work out, and then the missed rail to boot, which really should have realistically given Psygib the 2-to-1 situation. Looking for some mid-airs. Doesn't need them though. As a nice delayed rocket makes this a 3-to-1.
I like how Rapha doubled back there to go collect the small armor, knowing that otherwise Psygib was in a good position to take it. Psygib, can he finish it off? Yep, Rapha dropping down, but not getting to safety on time. And then Psygib, of course, has got a very easy angle, shooting the heavy nail gun down at the crouching Strog. Still, Rapha 1 frag in the lead. Mega's about to come up. Are we going to see a bit of a confrontation? Psygib's aim is solid, but he's got the bigger hitbox. Still, though, perfect LG from Psygib, and that's what people mean when they talk about his insane combat skills. He can really just make stuff happen like that.
However, He's extremely weak here. Small health bubble's going to spawn just in the nick of time, but he needs a lot more than that. But now with it being 3-3, oh hello.
Yeah, clever positioning from Psygib so he can hear the heavy pickup through the wall, knows exactly when the armor is going to respawn now. That's an excellent rail.
And the ball rush used just to get out of there. If there was a risk he was going to take one of those rails. Even if he got hit there, it's all about the damage reduction that a ball rush scale bearer actually doesn't have to endure.
Yeah.
He takes such little damage from a rail if he's using ball rush that if you're trying to avoid damage, it's not really a bad idea to pull the trigger on the rush and just get it out there to prevent taking damage.
Psygib deciding not to stick around though. I feel like he probably could have done some more damage, but he didn't want to risk exposing himself to any harm in returns. Looks like Rapha might loop back around. Nope. Psygib slow playing it a little bit. I think both players know exactly where the other is at right now. Psygib, is he going to push this? Is he going to try and make a move? He actually just steals away Mega right from underneath Rapha's nose. Don't think he was expecting or ready for that at all.
I wonder where he gets from it though. Looking like he's trying to beat him towards heavy. Picking quite an up-close aggressive angle. Oh, perfect turnaround and the deliverance to Rapha at the last second. I really like that navigation from Psygib. So often when you see scale bearer players around that corner, they don't kind of fully dedicate to a hard turn like that.
Yeah.
Psygib more than prepared. Now here we go. The Mega is going to get taken. Psygib has to put a lot of faith in his ability to survive on those two small bubbles, but unlikely. Way too large of a hitbox, and those two health bubbles are only going to do so much to keep him alive.
Yeah, Rapha just had the better positioning, had the Mega spawn right underneath him. He, of course, had the perfect timing on that item. And it allowed him to just get that extra leg up over his opponent. Psygib just spamming the nails like there's no tomorrow. Is he going to commit? He actually tries to, but runs short.
Wow.
Doesn't matter though.
Puts him into position.
Yeah, even when the bull rush fades away, he's still close enough to dish out the damage. And that's all it took. Mega should also be going to Psygib. And this is looking a lot better. What a combo! Rapha shows his face, eats the rocket, it stuns him in place, and then the rail to combo into that. Beautifully done.
Psygib looking completely unfazed right now. The danger is, though, he needs to get some armor. That's why he's here in the first place. Looks like Rapha's going to be able to somewhat shut it down, but how much damage is Psygib going to be able to get? Actually uses the bull rush and takes minimal damage in return, just trying to get himself towards the light armor. But he knows the bull rush will be back a little bit sooner thanks to the hourglasses near the curve.
That's an interesting decision because he didn't really have that much to gain from trying to push in like that. A little bit strange. I don't know exactly why he went for that, since it seems like he would have been healthier just staying up there and maybe backing up. But nope, he decided to push in past Rapha for the small armor.
Heavy's been snapped up there by Rapha. Just take a look at the stack at the top of the screen. Looks like Rapha's a lot healthier here. And he is going to go full speed ahead. And why wouldn't he? He has way more stack to work with. He's got the speed. Catching Psygib off guard. Only likely to have a few weapons fresh off the spawn there from Psygib. It's 5-6. He's technically in the lead, but Rapha has plenty of time to get that one final kill to at least tie the knot here.
Yeah, 3 minutes to go still. Rapha. Knowing him, excellent player at getting those comebacks on, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people go through when they play against Rapha. Even when you're in the lead, you feel like you're trailing.
Oh,
wow.
Final kill, though. Actually, not in a situation you would expect.
No.
You'd expect him to barely survive there, but he had a decent amount of stack remaining.
And Rapha's aim just kind of went a little wonky at the very end, and just for the final half second of the confrontation, did 0 damage with the lightning gun. And right now, Psygib actually extending his leads. There we go, it's some good damage. Out comes the bull rush. Can he do anything still? No!
Oh, tried so hard. I mean, he put all effort into that. Piled in and then some and didn't land. He just didn't land the hit he was looking for. A sitting duck all the way through.
It seemed like you either have to go for the damage or you go for the armor. And he just like kind of weaved in between both of those and ended up getting neither and even giving his opponent a frag. So that's a tough one to swallow, I think, when you're Psygib. And there we go.
I mean,
now,
the consequences afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
Comeback being made here by Rapha, 7-7. Oh dear. Bull rush is alright, but I mean, looks like he only has the starting shotgun to work with, which isn't even going to be alright. Almost secured a frag, but not before being super weak himself. Given up quite a lot to try and deny that at the same time, because Rapha's in a much better position. And in fact, Psygib, he's trying to restack, so he's nowhere to be found when Mega gets taken. It took him far too long to stack back up. Not that there was anything he could do about it, he had to try, but... Catches around the corner, ball rush, but again, doesn't work. Putting too much faith in it now, I think.
Yeah, maybe a little bit indeed. And now Rapha will take heavy. Psygib, is this going to be the deciding matchup? Is he going to go for it? He's going to stick around the LG, forcing Rapha back. Psygib, he is going to try and chase down. Takes a bad rail. Out comes the peeker. Are we going to see some peeker damage? A lot of it too. Psygib screamingly low. And there we go. That is probably going to be the finisher.
If you're Psygib, after this map, you're absolutely going to go back to that time the ball rush got popped.
Yeah.
And you're just going to analyze what happened there.
Hang on.
There was a potential, and I don't want to go into this too much, just on the account that Psygib got this frag. There is absolute potential he can make this one work. It's the rail though, that's
another one.
Rapha's going to have the mobility on him, that's what I'm worried about. That Rapha, this is going to be a runaway for 30 seconds game, I'm sure of it.
The scale is fast, but he doesn't have the same mobility that Strog does, and there we go, Rapha. Is he going to fake the fight? Nope, he's just going to turn away. Turn later.
Oh, these missed rails, they're going to add up over time. We have 15 seconds left on the clock. Psygib just needs one more.
He doesn't have time to go for heavy. Oh, he actually still goes right back for it, hoping to catch Rapha off guard. Even going for the rocket jumps to build up some speed, but Rapha is on the other side of the map.
Miles away, mate.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a heartbreaker for Psygib. That feels like that map was very much kind of like a choke from Psygib. There were a couple of occasions where he really did have a significant advantage, and through some pretty crucial errors in judgment, kind of slipped through his fingertips at the end.
I admit to thinking for a few moments there, we're going to go into a third final deciding map.
I think you had every reason to believe it, Flea.
When Psygib managed to get that 2-frag lead really closely towards the end, but then out of nowhere, the fumble and he goes down, and yeah. And when we were looking back at the stats of the end of that game, it was very interesting to see how Rapha got so many more mega healths than his opponents.
And then I'm gonna watch this reel and really refresh my memory and pinpoint the moment it really went wrong for.
Oh, it almost went wrong there.
But genuinely, the moment those tables got turned, kind of unnecessarily, that was the beginning of the end for Psygib. Even if he did manage to squeeze out a frag near the end, the only word you can really use for that is unfortunate. By all accounts, I strongly believe we should be in a kind of final map scenario here. It's just tragic for Psygib that the change of momentum happened the way it did. Like, even down to here, you know, just sandwich in. Clearly there was a lot of knowledge here. The scale bearer pick was calculated as anything, and it was doing absolutely fine. But it all fell apart, really, near the end of things.
Yeah, so far so good. This is still Psygib's rise to fame. Lots of damage. Yeah, that was a beautiful one. That's a frag movie clip right there. Especially when you're doing it against a player called Rapha. It's not against some random you've run into a pub game. Nah, this is one of the, if not the greatest players of all time. Yeah, there we go. That set it off. Just dipping and dodging in between the armor and then Rapha, and then he had to push over and over again, and Rapha was ready for him.
It kind of goes to show the extreme double-edged sword effect of the bull rush, where when it works, it feels like just absolutely immaculate as an ability. That, you know, it can cause a knock-up sometimes, it does damage by itself.
Yep.
The build-up is great as well, it gives you a speed boost, you take reduced damage. Like, on paper, that ability sounds like broken. It sounds like a busted ability that would break some of the maps. But when you think about the consequences of when it goes wrong, which happens, you know, this is Quake Pro League. This is a gathering of some of the absolute best players, or no, not some of the best players on the planet.
Yeah.
And when even they make these mistakes with the ball rush, because it's hard to control. You know, the second you press that key, he goes, and you have an element of control over it, but
it's high risk, high reward.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely
what it is. If you can pull it off, there's very little that your opponent can do in defense. You get them knocked up against the wall. They're basically motionless, nowhere to run. They take a great amount of damage. You're basically invulnerable when you're charging them. But when it goes wrong, and you just have nowhere to run, and you're just taking the damage, and you're looking for a way out but unable to hit anything, it can be so disastrous to your whole play.
It's unfortunate, because that was a string of momentum that Psygib simply needed to maintain. And against Rapha, that is easier said than done, but that was the moment of disaster, unfortunately, for Psygib. This, realistically, it's unfortunate this is not going to be a 2-1 situation. Rapha is going to take that 2-0 at least here, going into the final map situation now, just to see if the bonuses are there. Psygib, he's going to be going in with high mobility. His Athena was removed from play, so the Anarchy is going to be the last ditch pick. And in this case, I don't know, after a loss that went the way it did, it kind of benefits Rapha a little bit, because, I mean, there's no pressure on Rapha's shoulders.
Yeah,
no, there really isn't. I mean, he's already #1, and Psygib, it would have been a great result for him, but all eyes were on him this week.
And right now, the only thing that remains to be seen, can Psygib really do anything with the final map that he's got ahead of him? Can he at least put a dent in that Rapha defense out of nowhere? Rapha not ready at all for the speed coming out of the Anarchy. Does use the orb to get away though. This is a risky push from Psygib. He really doesn't have that much stack compared to Rapha. And he will wisely decide not to fully pursue that one. Both items spawning at around the same time. Rapha, is he gonna look for some more damage? No, just wants to get the hourglasses and collect his heavy. No sense in taking the risks, he says.
A point-blank Anarchy that's being nice and aggressive. A Dire Orb and a rocket to the feet can sort him out in due time. So there's no wonder. And then, I mean, there's also the element of navigation. We just need to see Ranger, if he wants to move around and kind of match that mobility of Anarchy. There's always that element of Dire Orb that sometimes kind of needs to be used to be able to punch. These are some absolutely fantastic rails. And yeah, one little bit of SSG should do the job. There it is, looking for it.
Perfect read from Rapha as well, figuring out exactly that Psygib had nowhere he could have run from that position. A bit of a fumble on the rocket jump right there, doesn't matter. Still has enough time to get over to the other side of the map, but it will be Psygib to collect the mega health. There's just really not enough time between the two major items for one player to consistently get both of them, unless the other messes up or has no timing whatsoever. So that does give Psygib a lifeline.
I think a little bit of machine gun damage actually. He was trying to pepper down that tri-bolt. As we can see now, Rapha keeping his eyes fixated on that heavy and going in for the Dire Orb, but is it going to be enough? Psygib takes so much rocket damage, way more than he's comfortable with. Thing is, Rapha has plenty of health bubbles nearby, and once more, this is Ranger. That less self-damage, it matters such a great deal for those rocket jump moments that most champions have to consider that. Ranger, not really one of them. The damage he does to himself is barely noticeable, especially when you have quite a fat stack. Excellent rail. It's going to lay somewhat of pressure here on Psygib. Going for a second one. I mean, that's a bit of a, kind of like a reactionary shot just in case. Psygib's not really going to want to sit around and fight too much. He's consistently good without stack. I really liked the attempt on the LG, but this is the Dire Orb we're talking about. Like, you can't stop the air momentum of someone with an orb out.
I mean, Rapha wouldn't have made it. He would have dropped back down if he was relying on the rocket jump alone, but he still had that orb ready, of course, to give him that final little extra bit of distance that he needed. And of course, the orb does damage as well, so Psygib struggling a little bit and going down 3-0. Rapha now mercilessly looking for some more damage. Can he find the final little bit?
Oh!
Psygib, I believe he's at like 5 points of health at the most. There we go.
No longer.
Yeah, that's gonna do it. Clean up Anarchy nicely. And Rapha, upon getting the kill, he's got a heavy. Mega's gonna spawn in a few seconds. He can probably get over to that side as well.
And Rapha has done a fantastic job of just running the cycle of the item so far. Psygib goes in for the big play. Is the rocket gonna do it? So weak! But the rail comes through from Psygib. The question is, can he make something happen? A common problem he's been having pretty much the entire series is that when he finally lands a frag on Rapha, he's too weak to gain momentum from it. And simply a refrag is just something that appears. But Psygib, he has restacked back up. We can see the Mega 5 seconds away from spawning, so there's always the potential for that. As you can see, Rapha, he's making chase. He's not making this easy for him. Oh,
good rockets. One more rail could change things completely for Psygib, but he's got to be careful because Rapha is pelting him with insane amounts of damage right back at him. And the rail, 70 points of health. Psygib is railable right now. Rapha is just gonna push in super aggressively like a madman. Very calculated madman, of course, that is. But it will put him in a 5-1 advantage right now.
Just about hit that 5-minute warning, and that's where the pressure's going to ramp up. It's like, oh, the combo, the 2-piece into the 3-piece. Getting that rocket into teleport into another rocket. Thank you very much. And oh, that was just beautiful rocket tracking. And an even more beautiful super shotgun. This Anarchy has just been completely ineffective the entire map. But you can see these smaller champions, which kind of movement is their shindig. If someone has a massive stack over them, and they are behind, kind of hard for them to get going, really.
Yeah.
Rapha consistently just starting these fights and getting beautiful damage all the way through. And this should just be, by all accounts, another frag. Psygib just failing to have anything working. Looks like he's ever so slightly short on the timing.
Yeah, and Rapha, I love the restraint he showed. He was right next to that small armor at first, could have picked it up for like a 5 points of armor boost, but he didn't. He just left it up because he knew that he was likely to win the fight up against Psygib. Okay, Psygib is like peasy. Easy peasy. I don't know what he's trying to say with that one, but he's liking it, and I think we should too.
Rapha will remember that.
And there's a lot of Rapha's ledges by now, I feel like, but only one true on Molten Falls. Oh, Rapha, what? The rocket jump, so risky. Hang on. 5 frags, 4 minutes. This is still possible for Psygib.
This became realistic. It's just quite the ask.
Yeah.
To stack up that many frags against Rapha with that much momentum. That's kind of what Rapha can, in some ways, pride himself on, and what the rest of the community prides Rapha on is this idea to never give up hope, no matter what. He understands that he has the lead. It's quite a sizable lead still, by all accounts, especially in a competitive match. And it's not one that Rapha will simply give up easily. Every single frag, every single moment, Rapha is planning the next attack. He's planning the next decision or play. Even if Psygib is being extremely overwhelming here, it's not really going to deter Rapha from doing what he knows he should do. Right now, that choice is going to be to concede the heavy. Doesn't want to get caught in a really terrible position. The game of playing defensively is something he can switch to now, thanks to the fact that, I mean, he still has a sizable lead. If he wastes time and Psygib can't catch him, that's still going to be a win in itself.
Yeah, really smart decision from Rapha not to go for the heavy, but just leave it, but shoot one rocket that way, hope for the best, and then just decide that, you know what, I'm not in a situation where I can really take this fight. I'm gonna do it the next time around. And now Psygib! I love that play from Rapha, because Psygib completely thought that his opponent had already gone for heavy, and so he just left it up, and he didn't even look back at Rapha, and just focused completely on that health bubble that he wanted to get, and then Rapha just peeks right back around him. Boop. Down you go.
For another rail shot that absolutely would have been a kill shot, but it didn't quite hit its mark. Not that it matters. Rapha collecting a mega, staying nice and healthy, and there's not much of this map left, Flea.
Indeed, there isn't.
That Rapha should be securing a pretty standard 3-0.
Yeah,
it is kind of heartbreaking because it should be at least a 2-1 if you think about how the end
it felt like it,
but sometimes that's just how it goes.
It's the way the cookie crumbles, but I mean still, even though it looked like it should have gone that way, Rapha just showed incredible persistence. What?
Oh my god.
I cannot wait to see that frag from Rapha's point of view.
Even
just
Rapha
waiting up there.
Sometimes,
clearly, yeah. Although I don't know if that was fun, but I think he probably just decided that was the optimal play.
I have no doubt he deems it the optimal way of having damage, but I had fun watching it.
Of course, we all did, I think.
I will never say no to a good pummel. Oh,
the orb.
Delicious trade.
Yep, the orb still pulls through.
I mean, that's all she wrote, I believe, Flea.
1 minute, a little over a minute left on the clock. Psygib, he's the kind of person to play until the very end. It's not going to call the GG early, I don't think, but it's done. There's just no way that he can still get back into this, and Rapha continues playing and bringing the same high level of gameplay over and over again, even when Psygib is basically done for. He wants those frags.
Poor old Anarchy's making too much noise trying to escape. Rapha looking for the cheeky rail. At this point, Tribolt, ouch. Can he get one more bonus frag for the road? Yes, he can.
Nice rocket jump by using both the floor as well as the side of the wall to get that diagonal angle right up and into the rocket room. Beautifully done from Rapha.
And Psygib has essentially spent an entire map of just unable to find his footing.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally what it's come down to. These really fast champions, they can seem incredibly overbearing at first, and then you realize very quickly.
The air control. Rapha just looking where any other champion would have been. But with the extra air control, Psygib's just like, you know, let me just dance a little circle around your heads. There we go.
GG's.
Rapha will call the GG's first. It's gonna be a clean 3-0 for the Professor. Nice try from Psygib, but it ultimately didn't pay off this time around.
I mean, Rapha, #1 player in the Americas without a shadow of a doubt, and tonight has just further and further confirmed that. He's going to get a dominant win here versus Psygib. Psygib probably going to be kicking himself over how Molten Falls went, because by all accounts that really should have been a map win for him. Just a couple of disasters, really, for lack of a better term. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
Unfortunate events that he could have prevented.
Indeed, just the bull rush perhaps used a little too liberally at certain times without the direction.
You understand that in the heat of the moment he would have.
Yeah.
You know, because like he just hit a bunch of damage. It would have been the perfect combo. It's just as he used it, Rapha falls down. And it led to a map that felt like perhaps Psygib wasn't even all the way there throughout the course of this map. Like, there's a lot of Anarchy movement there that seemed somewhat like a little bit autopilot almost. That Rapha is just running around maintaining his control, and it's, oh, there he is, rail, finish it, super shotgun, LG, you know, rocket, whatever it is, and you know, the orb was a real extra layer of the crazy combat that Rapha brought to the table. But so many of these frags, Rapha just sees Psygib around, just jumps down and just frags him real quick, and then just gets on with his day. You know, goes about his business.
I mean, Rapha did a pretty significant amount of damage over his opponent this map. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a sizable lead over his opponent, over Psygib, and I think that very often it's something you'd expect to be the other way around, because Anarchy is a very difficult target to hit, at least compared to Ranger.
I love that combo.
But Rapha just stomped him left to right and also had the better item management to go with it. So Psygib was just outclassed on all fronts, it felt like. But he shouldn't feel too bad about himself, because it is Rapha, and he did manage to take Rapha down like that. What?
Oh, so good.
Oh my goodness, what a perfect float coming out from Psygib. At least he should be happy for that one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see him go down to Rapha the way he did, but there was some real talented plays there all the same. He gave us some hilarious moments at Rapha's expense, so we appreciate that.
Now I really want to see the pummel from Rapha's point of view. Okay, here we got to see it from Psygib's point of view, but are we going to get it the other way as well? No, unfortunately not, but still, that was a nice frag as well. Rapha putting in some fun, but also, of course, in the most optimal way possible.
Well, what does this mean? This means that Rapha is going to maintain his position at, you know, top of the food chain, top of the pyramid, and it kind of looks like until we see potentials for Dahang or whoever online, it just looks like Rapha is truly untouchable in competitive until the lands. I feel like the lands are what's going to happen that really tests Rapha's mettle.
I think so too.
He rules the Americas with an iron fist, it looks like.
Yeah, but the previous land didn't quite go as well for him, and neither did Quake on. I mean, even though he definitely finished towards the top there, he went out in the semifinals against Cypher back at the Stage 1 finals, so Rapha might have some things to work on, some things that he wants to change up and think about a little more when he goes into the Stage 2 finals, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how he prepares and goes into that.
Well, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this has been quite a substantial stream today. We've had a ton, and I mean a ton, of excellent games, but that's all the games we've had time for. I'm really interested now, though, and I'm sure production will let me know when we're ready, to see that global leaderboard. Because there's been a lot of results today, and results that have absolutely shaken things up. We've seen some great results from Cypher today, some great results from Toxic, and there's some of the real sort of key performances for me. I want to see where the shift of power has come into play and really how we're shaping up now.
Absolutely, and keep in mind that after this week there's only 2 more weekends left of Quake Pro League before the finals, and some of these players actually have a bye week in one of the 2 following, meaning that they only have 1 more chance to increase their point count and maybe put themselves outside of the danger zone.
If you're on the lower end of the leaderboards, having a bye week is not what you want. It's the opposite of what you want at this stage, because if you desperately need points and you didn't do so hot today and you have a bye week, you get 1 more shot.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally all you've got. And then The threat of relegation starts to rear its ugly head. The forever ongoing Challenger Series, which is kind of coming to its conclusion now as we are reaching the end of Stage 2 before we go into the Stage 2 finals in Poland, which is going to be really exciting, by the way. It feels like we've only just crowned Cooler a champion, and now here we are about to crown a new one who's going to get
There's
their
the
name.
belt.
We've already got Kilson and Cooler on that bad boy back there, but we have more names left to go. I've just been told we should have the leaderboard ready to go so we can check out what tonight's action has involved, I suppose, and what it means. So Rapha maintaining his position at number 1.
First person to breach 200 points.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Rapha. Yes, indeed.
I'm looking at some players that are on the lower end, and some of those players that have played today. Looks like Hron and CNZ are narrowly down there, but the divide between Avec and Hron and CNZ is not particularly far. Only 2 points separate himself and Hron. The victory that Cypher has obtained today, very important. Put himself up at number 9. And Toxic's victory as well, surpassing the 100 points. Those that have won, it has been quite an impactful win for them today. And those that didn't, unfortunately to say, has started to strike some alarm bells for you.
It's definitely going to be a difficult task, and at the EU side of things, it really is looking like it's going to come down to CNZ, Hron, or Avec to determine between those 3 who is going to be able to escape relegation and the 2 that are not. Of course, there's still a small chance that, say, Toxic or Cypher gets absolutely 0 points, and someone from the ones I just mentioned just smashes it 3-0, 3-0.
There's a chance.
And switches sides. Very possible, but it's looking like it's going to come down to these 3 names. And then looking at the NA side, Genic, Genic only has 16 points left he could possibly gain, so that would put him up to 58. I think it's pretty clear that Genic no longer has a shot at escaping the relegation match, but Wes potentially still could. And then Effortless and Dramis are a little safer up there, but so far I think the pressure is still on Effortless and Wes.
I mean, it's a interesting turn of events for me where it truly, up until, for the sake of just giving all players their dues, it's not going to be over until that final week. You know, I'm not going to count out anybody just up until, just on the off chance. Even if it's completely mathematically impossible, like Genic, that's a different story. But that does mean that the 2 remaining weeks after this one are going to be quite juicy, because it's not set in stone who's up for relegation just yet, with the exception of Genic, who is, unfortunately to say, on the chopping block for sure.
And I also want to, again, just as a testament to Cypher's skill and prowess that it comes to Quake.
That is ridiculous.
If you just look at the other people that came from Challengers, like you see Genic, you see Dewey, all the way down there, you see CNZ, they're all towards the bottom of the leaderboard still. But then you see Cypher, he's the 4th challenger that made it into Stage 1, and he's already in 9th place, just barely behind the likes of Base and Psygib. So the man is absolutely making some huge waves.
If you didn't know that Cypher got involved in Quake Pro League in Stage 2, you'd never have guessed.
The only thing that's telling it is his frags, if you take a look, because those are not counted with the player that came before him.
People would be like, man, he's got just so much less frags than everyone else. What's going on?
Yeah, but still quite a bit more than Dewey, who, as we know, can play extremely passively.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a good day so far, and congratulations to all players that got the results they were after today, and for those that didn't get the results they wanted, there are still weeks left to play, so play to make sure it ain't over until it's over. And then on that 10th week, the scores will get added up. We'll find out who's up for relegation, and we'll find out for what players are going to be doing a little bit better in the bracket too. So there are multiple layers to this. The relegation is just the one that I think we will more immediately discuss, purely on the basis of they're kind of the first matches that we're going to see, and it's a massive impact on the Pro League to see which players are removed from it, or if there is going to be anyone removed. You know, we've just concluded most of our sort of challenger phase yesterday, so we get to find out the big bracket that's there and which players will be sent out to the Stage 2 finals in Poland to find out who's going to try and dethrone our relegation players. There's a possibility that none of our players up for relegation will actually lose to the players that are here to dethrone them.
Stage 1, it were all of the challengers that won and managed to knock out the previous pros, but things could be entirely different.
I wonder if Garpy is still, to this day, kicking himself
He
about
came
his
so
matches,
close.
because we've just talked in droves about Cypher's real rise to power, which has been phenomenally good. And still, you just look back to that moment where it was like last map nail biter situation between Garpy and Cypher, and it's like, it's mind-blowing to me how this entire era of Cypher dominance came this close to not happening. Like,
It
it's
seemed like
crazy.
It seemed like Garpy gave him more of a difficult time than, say, like Rapha did later
Garpy,
at the point.
if you're watching,
yeah,
shouts to
absolutely.
you, bro.
But I think that as we're nearing the finalization of today's stream, I think we should once again tell everyone, if there's any pro players that tickled your fancy, if you saw any plays that you absolutely loved, play styles, personalities that you think you can get behind, you can find all of our pros on Twitter, on Twitch. Go ahead, give them a follow, support them. Same, of course, goes for the Quake Pro League on its own. Hashtag Quake Pro League, twitter.com/Quake, of course, for all the official information. And don't forget, Quake Champions is free to play for everyone. It's an amazing game. Go check it out.
It's definitely worth a look, and it's worth playing, especially if you enjoyed tonight's stream. But that does mean that's all we have time for. There's only a couple of weeks left of these weekly broadcasts for Stage 2. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us, whether you joined us 10 minutes ago or you've been around the entire stream. We appreciate your time and your patience throughout the course of the day. My name's Ketchup, joined on the desk by Flea. I want to give a shout out again to id, Bethesda, all the players, all the hard-working production members behind the scenes. It really is a collective effort of many moving parts to allow these shows to exist. So one more thank you from me to you guys at home. This has been Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League, and we'll see you next week. Much love.